Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today, we don't have a breakup story on deck, but I do have some things to touch on in breakup story land. Why you broke up, attraction, trust, or connection was lacking, most likely. Those are usually the three pillars of a good relationship, a long term relationship, a serious relationship, a relationship that's worth continuing. So if you like this video, throw me a like. If you don't like it, that's fine. Actually, don't like it if you don't like it. It's better to have an opinion. Put it in the comments below if you agree or disagree with some of the things I'm talking about or people are talking about in the live stream. More comments is better, if that makes sense. Also, if you'd like to book a live coaching session with myself in the future and fully unpack your breakup situation, please visit writemac.com, WRITEMAC.com. Send your story in, and you could book a time this week. We'll talk on FaceTime or Skype and get to the bottom of things, get to the seeds and the roots of your issues and your breakup. And if you don't find it useful or helpful, I will offer you a refund. So let's get into it. Why you broke up. So a lot of times people actually know why they broke up, but they just don't like it. So they push it to the side or they reframe it or they spin the narrative or the story in a way that makes them a good guy and makes their partner a bad guy. And actually, some people like to be the bad guy. They like to be the victim. So sometimes people are spinning the narrative in the opposite direction. Actually, that's quite common, just as common as someone being the hero and not seeing their role in it. At the end of the day, whatever happened in your breakup, you need to take responsibility for your actions. And that's self-improvement 101. That's probably at the core of living a better life, is taking more responsibility and not blaming people, because you don't know what someone else was raised through. You don't know their value system, their morals, and how they came across them. And sometimes what happens a lot of times in a breakup or in a relationship is someone goes, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they would say that. I can't believe they would do that to me, because I would never do that to them. Now, what you're doing in that situation is you're basically saying, my morals and values and the way of looking at the world are far superior to theirs, and I just don't get why they don't get it. And the reality is every human is nuanced, they're intricate, they're different, because everyone's path and everyone's life experiences are so different. And that's really what shapes your view on things. So when you unpack your breakup in a live coaching session with myself on a FaceTime or Skype, a lot of times your clarity comes with the idea that, wait a minute, just because I think this doesn't mean my partner lines up with it. And even if the fact you go and tell them, hey, you're wrong for doing this, it doesn't mean they agree. It doesn't mean it's just going to make it better. Good morning. Hey, May. Hey, Asaraba. And you need to come to grips with that, and you need to either agree to disagree. You need to neutralize the idea that your outlook on the world or the situation is far superior than someone else's. And you need to seek to understand rather than be understood all the time. So getting into this, and this is more towards a long-term relationship or a relationship with any sort of, what's up, Azam? Any sort of foundation. Okay. What I mean, like, you've been seeing each other for a few months. You really like each other, love each other possibly. And the longer you are together, the foundation pillars that are attraction, trust, and connection are the three things that you could take a quick pulse on your relationship. And it's interesting to me because, sometimes someone will make a comment or they'll talk in the live stream and they'll have all this crap and all this junk and all this, like, my ex did this, my ex did that, my ex did this. And from the outside in, not being, when you're unbiased and you're in my shoes, it's really easy for me to be objective, which is actually extremely good for someone. Sourab. Okay, thanks for correcting me. It's extremely good to get an objective opinion, because a lot of times you want an objective opinion is what I call an aerial view of the situation. You're seeing both sides. You're not making judgments. And it's actually a good position to be in, because you can be much more honest and you can see things other people aren't seeing. So what what I tell people sometimes, if they're, well, they did this, they did that, they did this, they did that, they did this. Okay, so beyond why are you with them? You're blowing the whistle, you're stating the obvious, you're saying all these things. Okay, so why are you staying? Uh, why are you staying in the relationship? Uh, well, I love her. Well, I love him. Let's get a little deeper on that, right? That's a base of it. Sure, that's a broad statement. They could be true, but really, what's the carrot at the end of the stick that's drawing you back into a toxic, bad relationship, right? Azam, I think, knows this one. For men, a lot of times, a man will sacrifice trust and connection for physical attraction. A lot of times, not always. And someone will go, it's not all about intimacy or physical attraction. For some people, it's pretty big, and so they'll sacrifice trust and connection for that, and they don't even know they're doing it. And in so the meantime, when they send in their story to me, and that's why it's important to get your story written out and get it into someone like myself to unpack it with you, because you actually realize how much of a problem you have in the relationship. And you, like I say, I use the word unpack. It's like you're taking it all out of the suitcase and you're figuring out what you want to keep and what you want to let go of. And in the process, from the outside in, someone would go, well, why are you even with this person? Well, the intimacy is amazing. Okay, well, then that's fine. Thanks for the likes. That's fine. Well, then be honest with yourself. If you're willing to sacrifice trust and connection in a long-term relationship for fantastic intimacy, cool. That's what you look for in a relationship. Just don't continue to complain that this person does this, that, and the other, because they're probably not going to change, because how they approach things doesn't line up with you. But you're saying, I could, it's like being at a job. How many people have seen this before? That you don't like, but they pay you really well, right? It's like people will say that, well, do you like your job? And this is something I ask a lot of times in a coaching. Hey, what do you do? Do you like your job? Because this is an immediate indicator of how happy someone is or content they are with their life. And because you spend a lot of time at work, and if someone goes, oh, the money's good, but do you like your job? Well, not really. I always wanted to be a film editor, or I always wanted to paint, but I actually ended up doing this secretarial job and it's really good. But, like you could just feel when you ask the question, the person's almost uncomfortable. And that will affect your relationship. How will it affect your relationship? Because when you come home from work, you don't feel good. You don't feel good about your job or yourself. And then someone goes, why are you in such a bitchy mood? Or why are you so annoyed? Or why are you so on edge? Well, I just spent 8 hours at a job I don't really care to do, but the money's good, right? And this is what happens in relationships, right? So on payday or at the end of the month, you're like, oh, great, I got my check, cool. This is why I'm here. But the rest of the month, you're bitching and moaning and complaining. It's the same thing in a relationship where trust and connection are lacking, but intimacy is excellent. Every time you get a little piece of pie, or you guys have sex, good sex, then after that, you're like, okay, I can let go of the active trust and connection. When in reality, the optimal relationship, you should be taking a pulse on that relationship, especially at the end. But throughout the relationship, I think it's a nice thing to do that's really simple. And you could be honest with yourself, right? Because sometimes people lie about things, but a nice thing about a 1 to 10 scale is it puts a number on things really quick. And people sometimes, when I ask them the question, they're actually surprised by their answer because they haven't really thought about it yet. And if I said, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, what was your relationship on a trust level? Now, just go back to the last relationship you were in at the end, unless you're in a current relationship, and just say 1 to 10, what is it? Patricia, Jen, if you guys want to participate in this, Azam, Saura, Ba, if you want to participate in this, what was your trust level on a scale of 1 to 10? Without explaining it, without going into story, really quick, just to get a pulse on it. Okay. Next question would be, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your connection? Connection means chemistry, means you share a lot of morals and values, means you maybe share the same religion, you like the same types, you like Marvel Comics movies, you like going to the beach. I don't know. You got things in common. You look at things the same way, and therefore your connection's really good, and you don't argue about petty things. So connection can be fleeting. Fleeting means connection can be off and on. People can be into things at different times, and they can connect one week to the next. You can have your connection come up and down. Does that make sense? Uh, so you had a trust level of a 9, but should have been a 3 based on what you learned later on. So that's not your fault, Jen. So your connection, right on, T. So your connection's a 6, which is better. Like anything below 5, that's a failure, right? That's an F, in a classroom or something like that. Below a 5, when you get to a 6, you're like, okay, I can deal with it. It's not great. It can improve. Connection can be the one thing that you really work on. It's best that connection comes naturally based on what you guys like to do and your outlooks. And connection should be from the top of the relationship to when you start dating. It should be there. A lot of times people say, oh, right when we started dating, we just had conversations for 4, 5, 6 hours, right? That's when your connection's high. That's not tried. That's not game. That's not someone trying to get in your pants. That's someone going, wow, like we really connect well. We connect on another level. Connection at its highest level too is when you hear couples go, hey, she's my best friend. He's my best friend. And someone will go, well, that's not good. No, it means you are connected really well and you trust each other, right? Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, like I said, if I ask you about your trust 1 month, your connection 1 month, it could change the next month based on your schedule and how much you guys hang out. And if your partner had a death in the family or your partner had a demotion at work, like whatever, this can fuck with the connection a bit. But if you feel like you guys connect enough, you can repair that. I think it's the most repairable thing in a relationship. It's the thing that you can work on the most and make an effort at and see each other on the bridge. Trust takes the longest to cement. Trust also will keep a couple together, I believe, long term. If trust is a 9 or a 10, it will keep a couple together if connection's not great and intimacy's off and on. Because at the end of the day, it's not good when I hear it, but that's me. We are best friends. Ain't good in my book. That's fine because you look at things as trust and probably intimacy are high on your list. I'm saying if you say that you're the type of person that can't be friends with a woman, okay, which is up to you, then that's fine. And I would add to that whenever I hear men say that, a lot of times it just has to do with the job you do or the way you were brought up. So if you were doing a job that's primarily men oriented, 90% men, 100% men, then you're probably not going to hang out with women a lot, and it's probably not going to be very comfortable for you, and it's going to be odd because it's just a fact that you don't hang out with men that often. If you have a job where you work with women a lot, myself being a teacher for years, I worked in retail when I was younger. I went to university. I have friends that are women that are honest friends. It's not like, oh, I just want to hook up with them or this or that. That being said, some of them are my friends and I have thoughts of being attracted to them. I have moments. Okay. But I think that is an individual thing. That's not a rule or a law for all men. Okay. So if you think, what I mean is, okay, so Azam, let me just unpack this really quick because I see where you're going with this. I wouldn't say my girlfriend is my best friend. I would say that it's nice that we're like best friends, but we also have good intimacy and we also have trust, right? And that probably lines up with what you consider to be a best friend, okay? So, by the way, the interesting thing about this comment, I've got a lot of good friends, and so I don't like to rank who's my best friend. And obviously, being someone that's moved and lived in different areas and had multiple jobs, who's my quote unquote best friend changes. So sometimes I say I got a group of favorite friends or friends I really like. So that being said, I think if you look at your own life and you say who's your best friend, it's probably the friend that you've known the longest, right? Someone that's been through grade school with you, middle school, high school, you've known each other so long, and you're like, that's why they're the best friend. A lot of times it has to do with longevity. And from longevity, you have trust and understanding with them that you've been through some shit. Coming back to connection and trust. So like I said, trust is built and it's the it's the backbone of a long-term relationship, if you will. And if you're in a relationship where you're looking at it long-term, you're official, you claim that individual as your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, or quote unquote partner in public functions, then you need to feel like you have trust. And it's a great feeling to just feel that way, right? If you don't, then the relationship's constantly on the skids. It's constantly in a fight over that issue of trust. And trust is rebuilt slowly. And people a lot of times have to look in the mirror and see what they want to accept and what they don't accept and what they're overreacting to. So if you don't trust your partner, it's very good to get your story written and sent in to me and do a live coaching session, because you could be wrong. It could be a character flaw in yourself, or you could be right and you're sitting in a jail cell with the keys to the cell and you're just complaining about it instead of moving on and taking responsibility. Like, I'll never trust this individual. They're way too flirtatious. They get way too many text messages from the opposite sex or the same sex if you're gay. And I just can't trust them. If someone says, I just can't trust them, you got to move on, because you're just torturing yourself in the relationship. Now we get to the crown jewel, if you will. Physical attraction. Someone might say, well, physical attraction and attraction aren't the same. Okay. Yeah. But they are they're lined together. Okay. So physical attraction leads to intimacy, and intimacy is an important part of a romantic relationship or long-term relationship. Okay. Anyone that you're in a relationship with goes, oh, after a while, the sex just doesn't matter anymore. Really? Does your partner feel that way? Okay. So the amount of people that I talk to and they stay in a relationship because they have issues with connection. This is the one that's when people talk to me and they haven't broken up yet. A lot of times it's connection and a lack of trust. And sometimes they're jumping to conclusions, but I'll say, how's the intimacy? Oh, the intimacy is outstanding. That's what's carrying the day in the relationship a lot of times. Okay. That's what's keeping them in there. And if they're not seeing any other options or they're not dating any other people, that will reaffirm the relationship. So ask yourself this: what is the attraction level in the relationship on a scale of 1 to 10, your past relationship? So what I'm going to do now is, so really quick, for those that just came on, your latest relationship that you had or your current relationship, and you could do this in the comments if you like. What's your attraction on a scale of 1 to 10? And don't fight the fucking answer like, oh, maybe it's a 6, maybe it's like, just get a quick answer. That's your subconscious speaking and go with it. Okay. If your mind says 8, say 8. What's your connection and chemistry on a scale of 1 to 10? And what's your trust level on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay. So if you look at that honestly, a lot of times the most common thing is to stay in a relationship where you're not happy because the attraction's high. Just in my experience, the most common reason for someone to stay in a relationship where they're no longer highly attracted or the intimacy is lacking is because they really trust the individual and they still have a strong bond connection wise. Okay. So if they have the two other things, especially trust. Now, individually based, like someone like Azam compared to maybe someone like Patricia, they might value attraction, connection, and trust at different levels. Like trust might be paramount for one person, where intimacy and attraction is paramount for another person. And that's where your connection differs, because someone goes, well, trust is most important to me. It's like I had a client about a year ago. They had great connection. They had great trust. They had literally like a 0 on intimacy, right? And to her, it was a fantastic relationship, because to her, trust and connection and being financially stable, because they were in a long-term relationship, was paramount to her. And so she just couldn't, she just didn't get it that this guy, like would break up because they had intimacy 2 times in a year the last couple of years. She didn't get it. And so when we unpack that, she got it when they broke up. On the flip side, the guy didn't speak up for 2 years. So it was his bad too. But that's what breakups do. They make it real quick. Okay. So Azam just said attraction 7, chemistry 8 or 9, trust 3. So literally deep down inside, I'd have to guess Azam, and I'm not going to speak for you. I'm just speaking as an opinion here. You probably, at the end of the day, were conflicted a lot with this woman because attraction and chemistry being at a high level, you had 2 of the 3. But trust, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's at a 3, what do you have? Right? The ideal case would be trust is a 10, a 9. Right. And you even see like a lot of people right now that just chimed in on the live stream. No one put a 10 for trust. They're like, well, everyone's capable of lying a little bit. And like I said, the thing about intimacy and attraction is intimacy and attraction is the most fleeting. In other words, it's like a thermometer or the weather. It can change by the day. And someone will say, oh, I found my wife to be the most beautiful woman in the world since day one. Okay. Possible. That being said, most people, I would say it changes a little bit because, when someone's, having a rough day or they're ill or they're in their jammies, like I just had a client a few weeks ago in a really good relationship and she's got a really stressful job. So he said she always dresses in her sweats to go out, and he had to confront her and be like, hey, look, can you dress up a little bit? And so it was kind of funny because I'm like, well, what's dressing up? You want her to wear a skirt and heels? He's like, no, just jeans. I was like, fuck. Like, that's casual. He's like, literally every time we go out, she's in her sweats. And I could probably contribute to that, to the fact that she's had a job that's highly stressful and she just wants to chill. That being said, he has a right to be like, hey, look, can you dress a little nicer? Because he valued dressing nice. And so obviously when they go out, it's probably a turnoff. And then probably when they get in the bedroom, they had really good intimacy. And he was like, it doesn't bother me as much. See how it's up and down? So I think this is a really good way to look at your past relationship in a quick way and kind of get like why you stayed in it and why you broke up. And I would say the number one reason, and I'm not going to go like, oh, 70% of the time or 80% of the time, because I would just be pulling that out of my ass. I wouldn't even, I don't have any percentage on this. I would say a majority of the time, people stay in relationships that are good on attraction that lack trust. People stay in relationships that are good, that are high on trust that lack attraction. So when they're having issues, they don't really know what it is, but they'll bring up, especially women seem to do this. They like to be indirect. And instead of saying, wow, you look horrible these days, I wish you'd just get a haircut and lose 10 pounds and not be so fucking lazy. They'll say, oh, I can't believe you didn't, wash the dishes in the sink or take the garbage out, or God, you're so, I don't want to watch that TV show with you. Right. So this is a really good way in the future when you're in a relationship to get a pulse on things, right? And this is what I like about the 1 to 10 scale is it's really quick, it's really easy, and you can do it to yourself and you can ask the questions yourself, right? It's a nice way to look at things. And I think it gives you immediate clarity. And so I'll just go through it really quick in my own life. I've had 4 serious relationships. And the first one, I would say, just off the top of my head, this isn't, that relationship was over 20 years ago, right? But just off the top of my head, the trust was like a 4 or 5. Okay. Because she was very flirtatious and outgoing, and she had a bigger history than I had. That being said, the connection was great. We had fun, bubbly personality. I really liked being around her. Intimacy was quite good. So the connection was probably an 8. Intimacy was probably an 8. But the trust just wasn't there and was always lingering on me. And to be fair, to be absolutely fair, as far as I know, and even I know today, she didn't cheat on me. Now, it was just my issue with feeling uncomfortable because of the way she is, her personality, and the amount of guy friends she had. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that being said, though, I liked her outgoingness. I liked the fact that she wasn't shy. I liked the fact that she could make a joke and have some fun. I'm good, bud. Good to hear from you, Derek. So my next one that I always circle back to, because that was the one that I was like hurt afterwards, which actually surprised me looking back. Fully recovered 10 or 12 years later, whatever it is now. But That relationship, actually, trust was a 10, easily a 10, until the end. Until the end, trust probably went down to like a 4 by the last 3 or 4 months, just because of some things I came across and whatnot. And she changed jobs, she changed identity, she changed who she was. Connection was always good. Connection was a solid 8 or 9. We got along very good. We liked a lot of the same things. We rarely fought. So it's probably a 9. Attraction and intimacy, probably an 8 or 9. Yeah. And again, at the end, maybe the last like 3 to 4 months, it really went down. And all those things suffered because of the trust. And they were far more fleeting. And so that being said, the harder part of the breakup, I believe, looking back in retrospect, was the fact that for a good 4 years, I had 9 or 10 in each one of those categories. And so when it flipped to the last 3 months of like all of a sudden you didn't trust, it was a very foreign feeling and uncomfortable. And it felt like, what the fuck's going on here? And I had a lot of trouble dealing with it because I never came across it. And I certainly didn't expect it out of her. But that being said, one thing I'm proud of myself is I did break up. I did move on. I didn't accept it for a year or 2 years or validate it. I knew shit was fishy. I knew it wasn't going right. I knew I was uncomfortable with the trust level. And eventually we agreed to disagree. What's up, Mary? So the next relationship, which was 2 years, and we did some long distance in between that. Trust was at a 10. Connection was probably at a 9, very high. Attraction, especially initially, physical attraction was easily a 9 or 10. She was probably the most attractive woman that was a partner of mine in the beginning. Intimacy is like an 8 or 9. Maybe the intimacy was like more like a 7. I don't know if it was on par with that. So if I had to rate that on a separate scale. Now, at the end, I still trusted her 100%. Connection was faltering because we had dissipated into long distance. Intimacy had dissipated because we were in long distance. So the trust was still there. Now, so that's the circumstances of long distance. It's going to dissipate. It's going to weaken connection and attraction all day. And all you have at the end of the day with long distance is trust. And so the connection can stay if you guys are willing to talk every night or every other night. And people do that sometimes, and it does work. And if you are able to get creative as far as the way you dress up for each other in the videos, people talk about that sometimes, fine. There just needs to be a finish line. And I was at peace with the breakup with that individual because I knew it wasn't because of both of us. We just weren't willing to live in each other's city. So let me check in with the group. And I think this is a really good topic today. So the topic, why you broke up, attraction, trust, or connection was lacking. What was lacking in your relationship? So looking back at your last relationship or maybe your last 2 relationships, this is a really good way to get a pulse or a quick look at what happened and what was wrong. Which one is the most important to you in a relationship? If I was to answer that question, I would say long-term, I would say trust. I would say in the beginning, physical attraction is important because that's what's going to make you want to go out with the individual, physical attraction. And I would say that connection is going to show its face throughout the relationship. Which one kills a relationship most? Trust. If you don't have trust, then you're just going to be putting out fires in the relationship repeatedly. That's my opinion. Maybe someone says you can't start a relationship without attraction, and they would have a point there. So throw me a like if you like this video so far. If you don't, throw me a not like. I don't mind. T, seeking to understand instead of being understood, reminds me of a song I used to hear in church. It's actually a statement from a book by Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People or something like that. I believe that's what it is. Why we always act out our character emotionally and how does it affect relationships? Well, I don't know what your question is in the context. Why we always act out of character emotionally? Can you give me an example of what you mean by that? What's our topic tonight? I just said it. Yes, I agree. Being mostly in a negative mood definitely affects the relationship negatively. And where does the negative mood come from? It comes from the people you hang out with and the job or career or place that you spend most of your time all day, your environment. And so you need to get out in front of those things. Trust was a 9. Trust level in my marriage is a 9, but should have been a 3 retrospect. Well, good for you for giving them the benefit of the doubt. Connection is a 6. Connection level after 19 years, a 4 or 5. Now, would you say after 19 years it was a 4 or 5 just because it was monotonous and stale because of the length of time you were together? Depends, but generally I trust until I have a reason or reasons not to. I would say 6. I'm the same, Patricia. I've been lucky enough that I feel like I have a pretty good trust radar, and I give individuals the benefit of the doubt until I start noticing things, and I don't jump to conclusions. The main thing is with trust, you don't need to jump to conclusions. This isn't like a who did it or something like that. If you're suspicious about someone, ask them a fucking direct question like, who is that called you? Don't go, oh, yeah, I saw that someone called you. See how different that is? After 30 years, felt disconnected despite being cordial. Trust was an 8. It's not good when I hear it, but that's me. We are best friends. Ain't good in my book. All good Azam. Opinion is always welcome in my book, bro. Trust is the hardest bill. So connection was a 6. You're talking about marrying an individual, and if your connection's at a 6 in the beginning, I would say it should be a little bit higher if you're going to marry that individual to start, because you're in a honeymoon phase, you're before marriage and whatnot. It should be at an 8 or 9 at least. Trust is the hardest to build and easiest to break and hardest to rebuild. I agree 100%. When trust is broken, it's very hard to repair, especially depending on how much someone will forgive you. There are individuals out there, and it's a case-by-case thing, Jen. This is what's so interesting about what I do. Some individuals can forgive someone for stealing money from their account, but they won't be able to forgive someone for cheating, and vice versa, right? It just depends on individual morals. David Jeffers, how you doing, bud? I hope you're well and you started your new job. How's that going? Trust was a 9. Coach, however, relationship was over at that point, but we are on good terms. And a lot of long-term relationships that had trust and carried out trust, those are the ones where people can be cordial and civil and quote unquote possibly stay friends because of the trust and the longevity. I meant if a boyfriend and girlfriend say we are best friends, they wouldn't be in a relationship without trust. For me, someone who has been through the good and the bad in chemistry. He's to be more than good friends with a boyfriend, attraction, etc. Definitely has to be there, of course. Yes, chemistry, compatibility, all has to be there, not just the looks. Inconsistent behavior is a deal breaker to me. So is immature behavior. Right now, an 8, chemistry an 8, trust a 9. I feel it's important. See, that's right. Like Azam probably had very good intimacy because they had a connection and attraction at a pretty good level, but the trust was probably driving them crazy, right? Attraction level a 9, that's excellent. So you had all 9s? Wow, that's big. That sounds like a good relationship. I think you look and sound kind of like Matthew McConaughey. Anyone else tell you that before? I've had relatives tell me that before when I used to have longer hair that's curlier when I had a better hairline. And I take it as a compliment because I think he's a good looking dude. So thanks for that. It helps his channel. Women never lie. Medium is the message. What does that mean? Medium is the message. I'm sorry. Yes, I think getting along great definitely helps, Coach. Michael, Michelle Lewis. Michael Lewis is a excellent writer, wrote Moneyball. I think we dated the same girl, possibly. There's a lot of them out there. The ones that are vivacious, outgoing, promiscuous, flirtatious, and you think, wow, it's really fun to hang out until you're walking in the mall and they're like, oh, that's my friend. Oh, that's my friend. Oh, that's my friend. Oh, hey. And the guy walks up and you're like, oh shit, did you hook up before with this guy? And it happens more often than not. Hey, Coach, how are you? I'm good. Double D. Hit the like button. Thanks. The thing, Coach, those guy friends are there for attention, validation, and backup. A woman that is fully committed will push such orbiters away. Mary. Your gut never lies. You know what you should look at is Think Fast, Then Think Slow by Daniel. Shit. If Rob was on right now, he'd know. But it questions that idea about if your gut never lies. It's kind of interesting. It's not. I agree. Your gut is mostly true, but I don't know if it never lies. I think sometimes we let bias get in the way. Attraction is definitely important. However, I also have to be able to. What I would say about gut, going back to that, I would overall say to honor your gut, because going against it creates turbulence and unneeded traction. Attraction is definitely important. However, I also have to be able to have a great conversation too. That's a must for me. I wouldn't trust myself. Oh, Rob's making a late appearance. Right on. Trust is tough in an LDR. It is, and if you don't have it, then it's gonna last about a week. Just notice. I find, I was just telling this to someone recently. The best time I've ever had in a long distance relationship was basically, it was about a year. But the thing is, it was like a friends with benefits long distance relationship. It was like we talked regularly, but we had no pressure. We didn't ask who we were hanging out with, or like, oh, have you been seeing someone else? There was none of that. And then we'd meet up once a month, about once a month. We'd hang out for 3 or 4 days, and it would be outstanding intimacy. It would be fun, and we'd have a good time. And then we just stay in contact. And then at the end of that year, or a little over a year, we ended up getting together and being official. And it worked because we didn't, quote unquote, have to trust or hassle each other. It was a loose bond as far as that went. But on the flip side, we talked on the phone regularly, we supported each other, but then realized that, we live in separate cities, and what you do and what I do on our own time, I don't really want to know about it or judge it unless you want to share it. And it worked. Eventually, it's best to be in the same location if it's serious. I'm personally not interested in a long distance relationship. The video is freezing. Not this again. Is anyone else having trouble with the video freezing? Or does Mary just have a bad connection? Saying hi from Vegas. Right on, Roller Girl. Well, have a good time. Viva Las Vegas. Even though it's freezing on me again. Hi, Roller Girl. Mary, go out back in again. The stream is smooth. I think it might be your connection. Right on, Jen, for that. I appreciate these streams, Coach, and your perspective. Well, I appreciate you, Patricia, more than you know. Monogamy is not natural. It can work, but needs a high level of creativity. Azam, I would agree. I think creativity is important. I do think that monogamy, if we looked at cavemen in the beginning of time, most likely wasn't natural. If we look at the animal kingdom also, I think you're right on that. I think it was, well, what's interesting about monogamy, right? It's enforced in all religions, but yet, I was a history major. Pretty much most kings and even queens, if they had the ability to have more than one lover, they all did. So, yes, definitely. Why not trust unless I have a reason not to? What's up, Rob? Welcome, buddy. Guardian at the gate. Hi, guys. Hope everything is doing fine. Hello. No, if you mess with my money, you mess with my emotions. So I'm going to have another set of questions here. Now that we got 18 on deck and 10 likes, I appreciate you, that are a little bit deeper than the what's your attraction on a scale of 10, what's your connection on 1 to 10, what's your trust level. It's a little deeper. Ah, double D, a little Scarface. You fucking cockroach. All I got in this world is my balls and my word. I didn't say that very good. I didn't practice that double D. But I always like, you fucking cockroach. Hell, if I don't want to I don't even know what you wrote there. Oh, is this from Scarface? Scarface is such a great movie, isn't it? Rob, late to the party, haha. Very good. You know what's funny is like being 39, it was even, because Scarface was like 83, 84. So I mean, I remember getting that on VHS video, and it was like a double tape set, right? You know those double tapes. And now you talk to some people and they're like, "What's Scarface?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness." That's when like good movies were made with real stories. Very good. Just got out, currently spinning a lot of plays. Yes. That is excellent to hear. Is that because COVID and the lockdowns where you're at has opened things up, or did you get creative with dating during COVID? Because I know that you told me that it was really difficult where you live to actually go on a date based on, having to be on lockdown. So how did you get creative with that, or did things just open up? I'm curious, David, but I'm not fucking surprised. Because I figured that you'd be just fine, my friend. Uh, we'll see how it goes. Recently met this guy. Good. Actions are the message. Don't think my chat is working. Well, I just saw it. So far seems great. I'm on. Thanks for your email, mate. Appreciate you. All good, Scotty W. You got a short, quick question like you did. And you know what? When you're doing something with YouTube or you're doing something with your website, if you want someone's opinion, and you don't like it, then stick with what you want to do. That's just my opinion, bud. Yes, Daniel Common, think fast and think slow is on. It's just an interesting take, I believe, on because I've heard you say many times, is always trust your gut. He has an interesting book about an alternative thought to that, if that makes sense. Enjoying some medication, pills. I always feel that LDRs are backup relationship unless it is short and the deadline is clear. You got a bad connection too? This is incredible. I have bad connection on relationship, or bad connection on this live stream, because it's not telling me it's a bad connection. Chat is free. It's important to build civilization. I agree. Putting pressure each other is not good. Where's my most early civilizations were polyamorous? It's a really good book if you're interested in that kind of a thing that looks at relationships and sex in a different way. Sex at Dawn by Chris. Again, Rob's going to help me on this. By Chris something. I don't know. He's actually been interviewed by Joe Rogan before. It's an interesting interview, but talking about different civilizations and cultures and how they look at intimacy, sex, and relationships, it's really interesting. I always feel that LDRs are backup relationship unless it's short and to the deadline. I agree. Chat is freezing with me. It is important to build civilization. Hey, mate, thanks for your email. All good, Scotty W. I agree. Putting pressure on each other is not good at all. Either way, we get along, not without. Most early civilizations were polyamorous. Hate LD. VHS. I'm from that generation. That's when you rented a movie and you actually watched the whole thing. Now with Netflix, it's like, yeah, 10 minutes go by and you're like, fuck this. It's not good enough. You missed a lot, EG, but you're on deck now. Hope you're well in San Diego, bud. I saw that there's a lot going on over there. Creative with dating, found some girls willing to meet up. Sweet. You know why you did that, David? Because you didn't go, oh, yeah. Oh, all dating apps suck. Oh, there's nothing I can do right now. Ha, ha, ha. It's like victim, victim, victim. Let's get solution-based and be creative, dude. Good for you. You're right. Scarface, great movie. Others like it at that time. 80s and 70s movies were excellent. I actually, when I got a history degree, right, like I've talked about before, which isn't the most difficult degree to get, to be quite honest. But when I was at San Francisco State, Francis Ford Coppola donated a cinema, like a full-on cinema. So we had all these elective courses that were movie-based. And it was really cool because we didn't watch Scarface, obviously, but we watched a lot of foreign films and different things like that. And so, everyone kind of likes movies, but you get to see them in a different level when you have a teacher talking about different elements of the movie. And, some of the movies I watched, like Chinatown in the 70s with Jack Nicholson, obviously The Godfathers. What else is a really good movie that people overlook? Raging Bull. Hey, Ray, you never got me down, Ray. Great movie. I just don't see those movies come out recently as much. I'm confused. Saw X again, Traction, Trust Connection, all up in high scores, but for whatever reason, there's a reluctance on her part to be together. Very hot and cold. Do you still have the distance issue, Scotty? And the other thing I'd ask Scotty, what about the schedules? It sounded to me like when we talked about your situation, her schedule was really full, and therefore I could see her having trouble fitting in a relationship at this point. Say hello to my little friend. Thank you, coach. I definitely appreciate you. Seems good connection for me. Rob, has been a while, no long time no see. Dating a little difficult, and however can meet up at park and walk. Me too, coach, but you're still a younger guy. Rob, I'm Gucci. How about you? What does that even mean? Exactly. I met at a park and took a walk having a conversation. I'll tell you what, if you want to say the most common thing, someone just asked me how they could be more present. Uh, and I was like, take a walk in nature or go for a hike. And the great thing about taking a walk or going to the park or going in nature, most people have it available to them. You don't have to pay anything for it. So if you want to get present, because when you start walking, you actually have to look around to make sure that no one hurts you and that a dog doesn't jump out of the bushes. So your brain's coming back to the present, right? Exactly. I'm in a park, took a park. Warriors, come out and play. Well, even before Virus, no good movies at the theater. Yeah, I'm pretty sick of the whole Marvel comic thing. Uh, that's just been overdone. Just overdone. I would say if I'm going to drop a top 5 off the top of my head, Goodfellas actually would be up there. Fantastic movie. Um, American Beauty would be up there. I thought that was a great movie. I know Kevin Spacey isn't well liked anymore for obvious reasons. Vanilla Sky with Tom Cruise is a favorite of mine that doesn't get a lot of flack. Adaptation with Nicolas Cage. I haven't seen it in a long time. It was an excellent movie. Caddyshack. It's in the hole. Caddyshack was underrated. That's one of Bill Murray's greatest renditions. It's a Cinderella story. Mac, have you ever encountered exes still bitter months after the breakup? If so, why would they be? For me personally, once. And the reason why is I broke up with them and they weren't happy about it. And I still interacted with them. And I think if you interact with an ex and they're a little bit bitter how things went down, or they're bitter that you guys broke up, then when you interact with them and you're chill and you're upbeat, it'll bug them because they want you down and out like them. People want you to feel what they feel. The flip side of that could be, David, they're just the type of people that are like that. And if you're talking about your ex, based on what you told me in our live coaching session, she seems like she just has a bit of an attitude. No offense. Because the way you were, it was funny because you were mimicking how she talks to you, and it just seems like she has a bit of an attitude. So that just seems like that would be on par with her personality or character, if that makes sense. But as long as you know, if an ex seems bitter, then it's a specific thing, whether it's like you didn't pay the last month's rent, or you didn't show me enough respect, or I haven't met someone to replace you. So it could be a variety of things. But if you're doing just fine without them, don't get pulled in the snake pit, because they're going to try to bring you down. They're going to try to gaslight the situation, and they're going to want you to be bitter too, and they're going to want you to overcompensate and somehow please them in a way. And a lot of times bitter people try to make you feel guilty. Definitely I'm out. I'm out every day anyways. Love it. Good for you. You're in SoCal. Not a fan of Marvel. Me neither. She's very focused on her training for sure. Dallas to Austin on distance, but that's not the issue right now. I'm getting a bit pissed though with the double standard though. It's in her frame right now, huh? She said she's just busy, but I mean, her previous expectations of me aren't something she is bringing to the table on her part. Like, won't respond for days, then all in. It sounds like from what we talked about in the live coaching session, she's putting her career and her training first. And I would guess, based on what you told me, she's an intense trainer in her field, right? I don't know if you want me to discuss it on the live stream, but whatever she's doing, that could absolutely exhaust her, based on what you told me, that she's very what's the word, all in as far as the And that makes sense when you say sometimes she's all in or she's all out. I've had a girlfriend in the past that if she took up swimming, she would do 40 laps every morning for 2 months and buy a new pair of special goggles and a special swimsuit and look up everything on it. If she was going to go in on anything, it would be 110%. And that's fine. There's some value to that, and that's a good thing. But sometimes they have to put first things first. And I think if she's putting 110% into her training, there's probably not as much time left over for you. And so maybe that's a big part of it. Vanilla Sky, wow, shocking and so I think Vanilla Sky is really underrated. Doesn't get talked about. Bitter is normal. I've known plenty of people that were in relationships for a while that aren't bitter. The people that usually are bitter are generally not happy with themselves, or they feel like they got done wrong. Those are the two reasons. So if they're not happy with their jobs, their career, their family, their friends, their health, then they feel like you left them at their worst. Or on the flip side, you did something wrong to them that they would never do to someone else, and they can't let it go. I've seen a lot of great movies you mentioned. Now I'm getting into foreign films. They're coming out with good stuff. So foreign films that I saw that were really good that are older, Amoros Perros, great movie, Mexican movie. I believe, May, if you're still on, you can confirm that. Amoros Perros, fucking excellent movie. And City of God. City of God is actually a top 5 movie, easily. City of God's the only movie I've ever seen where I went, they don't even seem like they're acting. It was that good. Not bitter. I think he's not disappointed. She said she's just busy. Okay, we talked about that. Yes, he knows why I left. Exes will drag each other after a breakup. Gaslight, you compete to move on. Bitter as in upset and throwing random insults as in I haven't thought about you since the breakup. Even you remain civil with. Oh, David, that's fucking petty, bro. Don't even fucking spend time on that. I haven't thought about you since the breakup. Fuck you. Sorry, I don't usually talk like that, but it's like, you know what? Know your fucking worth, bro. Even when you remain civil with them, don't. Well, then if you pant to it and be like, wow, why'd you say that? Then you're just asking for it. Don't let someone speak to you. I haven't thought about you since the breakup. Just the fact that you say you haven't thought about me says that you have, or else you wouldn't even be talking to me. That's complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. Highly immature, and she's just trying to get your attention. And if she feels like she gets an inkling of you being like, really, you haven't thought of me, or you soften up, she feels like, yeah, I won. She feels like she's got it in her frame. And I would just say, I haven't thought about you since the breakup. Say, if you were in text, I would say, okay. And then I would just not talk to her again. You are never busy for a priority she is playing. Did you do the right thing by completely ignore when she was around after the breakup? Are you asking me this question or someone else? It depends on what you want. I'm good with this. I'm good with you discussing, mate. I appreciate it. Okay, no problem. I agree, coach. Playing the victim. Oh, it's a rally cry across the states and all over the place. Like no other time has people embraced not looking for solutions. I don't have a problem with someone being a victim in a relationship or being a victim in at your job or something like that. You have a problem, but at some point you want to get in a position where you're looking for solutions and not just complaining. Amoros de Perros. Yes, maybe I got it wrong. Great movie. Doesn't work on me. Better not guilt trip me. I agree. Know your worth. Yeah, I remained calm because I didn't care. Just thought it was a random comment and thought it was the opposite of what she really meant. It's a reach, bro. And if that's how you feel, it's like, thanks for telling me who you are. It's like, even if I met with an ex and I wasn't really thinking about them, I would never fucking say that to them. It's like, that would mean that, okay, so for example, one of the reasons if I ran into an ex a few months later, right? And I hadn't been thinking about it, obviously I'm seeing someone else probably that's taking up that void in that time, or I've been busy doing something else. I wouldn't say, yeah, I haven't even really thought about you. I wouldn't even bring that kind of thing up. First thing would be like, "How you been, hon? What have you been up to?" That would be the best position to be in. Present. This just became a favorite sentence of mine. Rally cry. The foreign films I'm talking about are the newer Korean crime dramas on Netflix. They have multiple film awards. Oh, you know what? I haven't watched them, but someone close to me told me that they're really good and they got hooked on them themselves. So, um, she literally dragged out the whole exchange of things. Easier to blame someone never taking responsibility for oneself. Going out of your own way to hurt means you are too hurt. Yep. People want you to feel what they feel. I think it's rude to say that and unnecessary. Mac, did I do the right thing by completely ignoring her when she was around after the breakup? I don't remember your situation or your story, so this is an extremely broad question for me to answer. So maybe get a little more specific. Exactly what I was thinking is, well, good, David. All right, a couple more questions that you could ask after your breakup. Why did you break up? Besides, what's your attraction on 1 to 10? What's your chemistry on 1 to 10? What's your trust level on 1 to 10? Are you proud to be with him? I've talked about this at work. Are you proud when you go to a Christmas party or you go to a family event? Are you proud to be with them, or do they embarrass you? I've had situations where I've been with partners that they're not very good when they drink, and you're on eggshells because you're like, they're not an alcoholic, but when they get drunk, they act up or they get embarrassing. That's not someone you want to be with long term. Do they impress you with how they treat people and challenges, or do they repulse you? David, let's do it, bud. I was happy to do a session with you before. And if you want to do the same thing we did before, just email me. Do they have healthy habits, or do they eat junk food and make fun of you eating healthy food? So think about this for a minute. So this is one I've come across. Like, let's say you take up some healthy habits, like you're changing your life, you're eating more healthy, and you're exercising more. You're doing something to actually better yourself, better your life, better who you are, and they make fun of it because they don't line up with it. Red fucking flag, right? It's kind of funny. My dad's extremely overweight. He's fat. He is my dad. I do love him, but I'm just being honest. And he makes a joke about it all the time that I eat healthy. Oh yeah, it's like, but it's my dad, so I'm not going to break up with him. But that being said, it makes him comfortable to eat junk food and be overweight and not exercise, right? But if you're with a partner and they think it's, they're like, you're doing something good for yourself and they try to make it a negative, that's a huge red flag. Do they care about money too much, or are you on the same page? So this can go a few different ways. Finances count in long-term relationships. So if you're looking at a relationship in the beginning, how people treat their money, how they value it. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but it should line up with the way you do. Otherwise, it's going to be a huge issue. I've been with partners before where they're very thrift, they're cheap, they want to save everything, but they don't really look at ways to make more money. And every time you make a purchase, they question it. It's fucking annoying. Do they like getting advice from you, or do they just complain? So a common theme with women and men, a lot of times women, they say just want to, state their problems and they don't want a suggestion. And men are more on the logic side and want to give you reason. I like the idea that if you come to me, you actually value my advice. Obviously, I'm a coach. I've been a teacher for years, so I like to give advice. It's kind of in my nature. And so if I'm with someone and they don't like that, it probably is not a good situation for me, because that's the way I'm going to be. On the flip side, if someone gives me their take or their advice, I'll listen if I respect them. Do they compliment you and make you feel better about yourself? Now, this is kind of interesting because someone would say, well, that's really insecure to look for. If you're looking for it constantly, yes. If the amount of guys that tell me I just can't win, or the amount of times I've talked to women and I'm like, are you going to give this guy a fucking break? Because all you're doing is complaining about everything he doesn't do. Once in a while, throw him a bone and tell him what he does good. Because at a certain level, when you keep doing that, it's like you got someone on the ground, you're just hitting him again and again and again. You're not letting him get up. And so do the individual compliment you? Do they make you feel good about yourself? And you should feel good about yourself already as an individual, but they also should reassure you of what you're doing right. So those are the things right there. Are you proud to be with them? Do they have healthy habits? Do they care for money about on the same way you do? Do they have the same values about money? Do they like getting advice from you, or do they just complain about their life? Do they compliment you and make you feel better about yourself, or reassure you when you're going in the right direction? Those are important things. Wouldn't you agree? So let me get back to the live stream here. I'm doing fine. Just seems like she's suffering, hence why she was acting so rude and bitter, even when I was being the adult in the conversation. Or it could just be her nature. Was thinking of doing another coaching session. I said, let's do it. Hurt people, hurt people. Hurt people, hurt people. That's a good way to say it. Never been anywhere with him yet. Well, we'll see. I mean, the fact that she did that means she is into you, actually. That's actually a good point. Azam's right, because she's trying to get a reaction and she's trying to control the situation. Too early to say anything yet, but watching for any red flags. The one that always gets me is when you haven't talked to a woman in a while, or you lost touch, and I've had this happen a few times. And then they try to play like, I'm really sorry that we haven't talked in a long while. I hope you understand. It's like, no problem, no big deal. Well, I hope you understand. They like try to put you in this situation where they somehow feel sorry for you. And you're like, it's all good. We're not seeing each other anymore. And that's their way of somehow being the one to let you down easy. And you're kind of like, I'm fine. I've had that happen a couple of times where I was talking to someone and then we fell out, not in a bad way. We just stopped seeing each other. And it's like, hey, look, I'm too busy right now, and I don't think I need to work on myself. I don't think we need to talk, during this time. I hope you understand. And it was like, okay, fine. I do understand, and I'm okay with it. And then we reconnected like a few weeks later or 4 weeks later. She sent me like some random question about looking for something. I was like, oh, let's have a chat and talk and da da da. And it was like, oh, well, I can't talk. I hope you understand. Again, it's like, okay, I'm done. I don't need a pity thing. And in situations like that, like I tell people a lot of time, okay. Or I understand. Okay. Don't continue on. Don't continue on. Like when someone doesn't want to talk to you or see you and they make it out to be a thing where they feel sorry for you, that's where I'm catching the next bus out of town. And I'm like, okay, you don't need to feel sorry for me. Okay. I have other options. Was thinking of doing a live coaching, never been there. I mean, the fact that she did that means she's into you. I agree, Zom, but why do you say that? Money is important, but not the detriment of a relationship. Patricia, the thing about money is everyone has a different value of it and looks at it differently. So you're better off lining up with someone that shares how you value it. Some people like to save money. Some people like to spend more money. Some people don't mind being in debt. Some people are really good investors. Some people believe in working hard for their money. Make sure whatever your belief in it is lines up with another person. But you definitely don't want to be with someone that spends more than they have. Red flags are easy to spot, easy to swipe under the rug. Well, long story short, she dumped me because I flirted with one of our group of friends. Okay, so what do you want, Eric? Eric, it's just best that you send your story in. You know how I operate. Saying that, if you have an ex and they're not happy with you, you're probably like you flirted with one of her friends and she broke up with you. Then what else do you have to say? Are you going to say sorry 15 times? Well, then just ignore her. The opposite of love is not hate. It is indifference. I have a good Googling and I don't find Amoros Peros. Okay, that's what I thought it was. It's not Amoros de Peros, but Amoros Peros. Okay, I didn't spell it correct. Thanks, May. That's the movie. Great movie. Have you seen that, May? Obviously, you have if you're in Mexico. Sometimes a woman that is complaining is trying to find a reason to break up and rationalizing it. True as I'm indifferent in this situation. Have no animosity towards her. Just wish her the best of luck. Nothing more. Well, you know what I would say? Stop wishing her the best of luck and just move forward. You've done it once. You've done it a couple of times. You checked in. You've shown that you quote unquote care. And now it's time to go on offense and start spinning some fucking plates and don't look back, dude. And trust me, Indifference makes the difference. But also, a woman like that, David, if she gets wind that you're spinning some plates and doing well on your own, she'll be knocking. I recognize a very good channel who gives some life advice. It's called Tyler JTI. Well, good for you. I hope you understand. I hope this annoys you. I want to feel I had an impact on you. Azam knows what I mean. That's a great way to put it, Azam. I love that you're a part of this live stream, dude. I love it, man. That is so true. I hope you understand. And in my head, I'm like, it's fine. It's okay. It's like, I hope this annoys you. I want you to feel I had an impact on you. Great way to put it, dude. My thing is, she checks so many boxes. I'm just at a point where I need to figure out how to patient to be. I'm caught in going in no contact or tolerating the hot and cold. Yeah, I know. You know what, Scott? Because I know your situation, and we talked about it for a couple hours, right? Going no contact would be the strong thing to do. I don't know if she's done something specifically throughout the hot and cold where you just go no contact, right? Because you guys are in this gray area. Here's the thing, Scott. You should definitely be open to seeing other women right now if you're not officially together. Spinning plates, you're a good-looking guy. You got, you live in a great city. You got options. So make sure that you're not just closing the door to that, because that will enable you to be less invested in how she's responding to you. I'm not telling, my approach isn't like, oh, just go out and just try to nail someone. No, it's more like, make sure you're keeping your options open and you're flirting with some other women and maybe spinning some plates, because you do live in different cities and you guys aren't official right now. So you have a right to do that. And that would take some pressure off of, wow, she hasn't texted me in so long or a few days. If you got some other, plates spinning. That being said, I wouldn't tolerate the hot and cold. I would just accept it without being overly invested or attached to it. Does that make sense? So if you have a situation where she goes cold, like the great Azam says, indifference, is great. So if you could treat it like, that's the great thing about spinning plates or talking to multiple women, not just necessarily seeing, or the next level up, as the great alpha male strategy says, you got a rotation. Is that when a woman goes cold or a man goes cold or something like that, it's like women do it all the time. I was just talking to someone a couple of days ago. She's a hell of a catch, and she uses the dating apps, which she's fine with. She didn't complain too much about it. She knows what it is. She's talking to me about one guy that she really likes. And the interesting thing about this guy is that he's doing all the things that maybe the rational male or No More Mr. Nice Guy would teach. He's being indifferent. He's being aloof, and he's creating a lot of mystery, and she can't stand it, but she's also highly attracted to him. But at the same time, she's seeing someone else, and she's like, this other guy's great, in a lot of different ways. But this guy that's more mysterious and hard to figure out, he's really got my attention and imagination. It was kind of funny because I told her, I'm like, well, this guy's following actually what they teach in a lot of attraction books. And she's like, what? She goes, well, the books that I've read on women getting men is to make men chase me. And I said, well, what kind of man do you want? Right? Don't throw away your dignity to please anyone. I agree, EG. That's good words, buddy. Scott, don't know the whole story, but cut contact and don't tolerate. Go all in. Either you get her right or don't waste your time. Pay this man if you want good advice. Right on, Scott W. I appreciate the endorsement. Amoros Perros in 3 movies in 1. I don't know what that means. Like 3 stories. Is that what you mean? I haven't seen it in a long time, but we watched it in film class and it was just outstanding. Another foreign film, I think it's a French film called Swimming Pools. I think that's what it's called. I hear you, mate. Appreciate your input. Gosh, you just jumped on. Now, this sounds like a great live chat. I'll be here watching it. And hi. What's up, Bernice, the great Kiwi? I've never been to New Zealand, but it's definitely on my top 5 list to visit. And I got a couple really good friends from there. Added the other ex back to Mac, by the way. Oh, on the Facebook? Good for you, dude. Total gray, brother. Problem with hot and cold is it can be a strategy to drag you on while she finds another guy. Again, Azam has a point. It's not always true, but yes, dating rotation. I got a rotation. Jerk game works. Jerk game works, but I mean, at a certain level, I like I tell people, you want to read some of these books, The Rational Male, No More Mr. Nice Guy. But what I encourage people to do is create your own remix. Do what makes you comfortable. If you're not a Navy SEAL, then don't try to be a Navy SEAL. If you're not a skateboarder or a surfer or something like that, you're certainly not going to try to look the part, right? That would be called a poser. And so you want to be educated on attraction and relationships, but you also want to be true to yourself. And then there's a client I have right now, and I wish I could document the progress he's made because we've done a lot of coaching sessions. He bought a group packages 3 different times of 5 hours. And then we would talk whenever he'd want to, he'd be like, in 2 days, I want to talk. And so we did it like once every 2 weeks for quite a while. And I haven't talked to him for a couple months. He actually came to me in the beginning for a really bad breakup where he was being needy and weak, and he knew it. And he had a lot of issues, some things with his childhood. And he was just the classic overly nice guy, always trying to please and accommodate. The great thing is he was aware of it and he didn't like it. And so we unpacked it. We went through it. He read some of those books and we got to the bottom of some of the seeds of why he was that way because of his childhood and the way his father had treated him and different things. And I swear over the last year, I don't say I'm a dating coach, but in his particular case, I was. And he's already on his 4th woman, and that's not a bad thing, by the way. These are things, when I say that, he's had different situations where he's been dating multiple women and he's like this woman and then it didn't work out, or he liked that one. And that's how dating is, by the way. It's not like you just meet someone like Hollywood in one day and then you find the one and your soulmate. That's horseshit. The reality is you got to sift through a lot of rocks to find gold. And so in the process, he'd be like, oh my God, I like this woman so much. And then something would happen and they would stop talking. He'd get upset and then he'd rework himself into something else. And then he'd rework. And in the process of that, now he's at a place a year later, he's a strong individual. He's actually got this little grin on his face when he talks to me about how he treats things, how he handles things. He's not 100%. He's not perfect. He's not a player. He's not a pickup artist. But he got a woman. He got a good girlfriend. And now he's dealing with some of the issues in that relationship. And the great thing about it is the relationship's not perfect, but he's not panicking. He's not overcompensating. And that's where you want to be. It's not that you're going to guarantee yourself no trouble in a relationship, no issues. But it's nice when you can feel like, wait a minute, I know what she's trying to do. Or wait a minute, what do I really want? Let me think about this for a minute. You start to get strategic a little bit. You start to think, well, the old me would have just said, okay, anything you want, honey, in his case. And now he's going, yeah, no. And that's value. I don't know. What would Jesus do? Is that what it was? Azam? In some instances, some guys should never. What would a jerk do? Okay. I wouldn't say that's my approach, but I know where you're going with it. What would James Bond do? That's Corey Wayne. Corey Wayne dropped an interesting video yesterday. I don't know did you see that? He went back to his old format too. I think a lot of people were complaining about him and his cool pad in Palm Beach or wherever it was, or Fort Lauderdale. When the definition of themselves is one when the definition of themselves is one where they are coming from a perspective of misunderstanding or attraction. Depends on what you mean by be yourself. You hate the introduction song, but it's branded, right? Yeah, well, the thing is, when I say be yourself, you still have to take actions and things. you can't just switch into something else. Where I'm going with this is it's really interesting with this one client. You have to kind of evolve in it. It's like anything else. It's like I always use this sports analogy. Even if I went back to, I'm not going to be Michael Jordan or be in the NBA, but if I was like, you know what, I want to start playing basketball again. I haven't played in a while, but I have this base set of skills, but I still don't got a left hand. You know what? Last times I've played, I still can dribble pretty well, but I got to get my jumper back. And I've always been really good on defense, but I can't move the way I used to. So I have to evolve my game. But the reality is I'm probably not going to be where I want to be for 3, 4, or 5 months, depending on how much I play every day. And so that's where it comes in when someone's reworking their relationship skills with women. They need to be dating and making mistakes and fucking up. They need to be in the midst of it. It's just like if I went out and played basketball every day, I'd get my ass kicked sometimes. And then after 3, 4, 5 months, someone's like, damn, this guy's improved. I remember I played basketball at the Y in my mid-20s. I hadn't played in years. And basketball was a huge love of mine in my early teen years. And I just stopped playing late teen, early 20s because I had work and different things. So I had some time frame. I was playing at like 12 o'clock every day. My jump shot was gone. Some of my skills were gone, this or that. Within I remember it was like 4 or 5 months after playing basically 5 days a week, some dude came up to me. He was like, man, I haven't seen people improve playing YMCA basketball. Well, the thing is, I had a base because I played when I was a kid. So like stuff came back to me. But I also evolved my game to play a little bit differently than when I was a kid. And what I'm saying is, be yourself. You still, if you read The Rational Male and you read these books and you come to my channel, you're not going to just be able to turn yourself into a biker or turn yourself into you want to evolve, but keep pieces of you in the process. Does that make sense? It's like if someone's is over the top nice guy, he can't just go to be an asshole or a jerk. It won't work. Okay. So he needs to evolve into having moments where he's comfortable being a jerk. He needs to evolve where he has a few of those moments because he's never going to identify with that. Does that make sense? I hate this introduction song. I've watched so many of his vids that I memorized his whole intro. Corey Wayne's cool, dude. That's what I give him credit for. He's a cool dude. Have you ever seen, you guys want to see something funny? I think it's on Amazon. So I guess when he first wrote his book, The 3% Man, the original cover is a picture of him with hair, and he actually looks older. It's pretty funny. He looks like an 80s white dude. But I got a lot of love and respect for Corey Wayne. He's cool. I like the way he tells things. I don't always agree with what he says, and he does a little politics spin on things, which is up to him. But he's true to himself. You know what I mean? He says what he wants. He beats to his own drum. Well, being someone that you're not for so long that eventually you're going to slip up and everything will go downhill for the rest, is better to be you. Okay, mate, one more thing. No problem, bud. Say what you want. She says she's confused as she sees I'm doing well, and so is she. So she's saying maybe we are better being just friends. I'm like, no, friend zone, not my goal here. Oh. Well, you don't want to talk her out of a statement like that, and you don't want to be friends. So it sounds like she doesn't want to make the effort right now. And you got to just accept that, agree to disagree, and move forward. You're not going to be able to go, well, I don't want to be friends. We should try. I think especially with someone that's strong-minded, if you back off and pull and back away, first off, accepting to be friends is a no-no because you don't want to be friends. So you're not at a stage in your life where you're going to try to play games and be like, well, for friends, maybe I can get her back on my team. No. She said, like I said, to me, she's saying, I just don't have the time right now, and you're doing well and I'm doing well. And so I would say at that point, Accept it. But you're not going to convince her not to make that statement. That would be backpedaling. If you're like, wait, I don't want to be friends. We don't need to be friends. Now you're becoming more of a salesman. And what you want to do is walk away with some dignity and pride and go, okay. Agree to friendship, treat her with socially acceptable rudeness, nothing special, just another girl, and hang out with as many other girls as possible. That's a strategy. Azam's correct. You can do that. If that's something you're comfortable doing, do it. It would probably work, especially because she's a younger woman, and um, she would find value in the social proofing. He's right. If you want to take that approach, it could work. Don't take that approach just to work. Take that approach because you do want to meet other women in the process. It's you going on offense and playing to win, rather than worrying about her feeling. Social proofing, he's meaning like you say, yeah, we could be friends, and then you publicly, um, you, we could be friends, but now you become cold with her. So you're like, you want to see what friends are like with me. You're cold to her, and then through social media or through mutual friends, she finds out that you've been seeing other women because now you're friends and you're a free agent. That will get her attention if she likes you or not, or if someone else is playing with her toy. If you're not comfortable doing that, don't do it. Do you know what I'm saying? That's an approach. If you don't want to do that because you quote unquote think it's a game and it's beneath you, or you don't like that approach, then I would just say, you know what, fine, and decline friendship, stick to highs and buys. Yep. Yes, don't be friends. To be honest, Azam said it before I got it out, and I agree with both his options. I think that both of those are really good. And I personally, if it was me, but neither one of those options is better than either. It's just an opinion. I would probably just go with accepting friends and seeing other women, because if you pulled one of that quality, you can pull a second one. The minute you start, when a woman degrades the relationship to, yeah, we're just friends, or like I said earlier, that oh, I hope you understand. I love how Azam said, yeah, I hope I had an impact on your life, not to be rude. The minute they degrade the relationship on their terms and in their frame, so they basically said, like, you're like, we're talking, we're level, and then they go, you know what? Actually, we could just be friends. Now they're talking a little bit down to you. Does that make sense? And at that moment, if you're like, wait, like, you could just go, yeah, okay, bye. Like, I'm not going to accept being lower at this point. And that's that's an approach. You could take it either one. I would probably take that approach myself, Scott. At this point in my life, I would bet on me. There's a great TED Talk, has nothing to do with relationships, but one of my favorite TED Talks. Who would you just Google who would you bet on TED Talk, and at the like who would you bet on? And the guy was like, who would you bet on? You should be betting on yourself. Ask her for advice about new members for your tier team. I just don't think that that's part of your repertoire, Scott, that you want to play a game with her. I think your style, this is where I say be true to yourself. Move on, move forward, and take your chances, taking some other hits at the plate. I think that's more your style, bud. You can live with that. Demonstrating how you are perceived socially that will increase your value, that's your attraction. For instance, you say hi to her, then talk to other person asking for a favor and walk away. If you're in a okay, so for example, if you work together, or let's say she's a waitress, which now there's not many waitresses because of COVID, but she's a waitress and you go into a restaurant and you sit at the bar or something like that, and she comes up to grab your drink and you say hello. She says hello, and you have some like 2 minute small talk. And then for the rest of the time at that restaurant, you completely ignore her. You make an effort to talk to the other bartender that's cute. That would be something that'll definitely get that individual's attention. Does it fix the problem? No. But in the immediate situation, you create a challenge for her and you make her re-attracted by that challenge, but it doesn't necessarily fix the longevity of the problem. We broke up because he's struggling with alcohol. It really is the worst feeling to see the one you love like that. Well, no one, I understand where you're coming from. I've had multiple people in my family with alcoholism, and at the end of the day, they need to realize that they need to take the bull by the balls, and they need to take responsibility for their life. And the worst thing you can do is be an enabler, because that will enable them to continue on and on and on and on and on. Treat her like nothing special. Yes, definitely. Acceptance is key. I've shown her that. I plan to keep moving up to her to reach out now. Yeah, it is up to her. If things don't work out in the beginning, probably not going to in the long run. Mac knows a girl I dated hit me up out of nowhere. Dude, did you block me on social media? Best thing to do in my experience is to spin plates. Women do it. They won't admit it, but they do the same thing. Especially David, you're young, man. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that a lot of people in their 40s and 50s, they find it less convenient to meet people up to their standards, because a lot of people are married or with a significant other. But when you're in your early, and that doesn't mean you can't spin plates in your 40s or your 30s or whatever. I'm just saying the longer it goes, the more you have people in your age range that are already settled down. So when you're in your 20s, though, the world is your oyster. Someone makes it obvious that they want you. Yeah, Patricia said that. Judy Jack said the same thing. She said, when a woman really likes you, she'll make it easy. I literally have the issue of finding time for all of them. I'm not surprised, David. I'm not surprised. Nobody can fix a person. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. When you're dealing with an alcoholic or a drug addict or something like that, help, and then know when to let go. Because then you can walk away and you go, I did the best I could. But even when you're in a breakup, if you had like, let's say you have issues with a person's weight, or you have or you have issues with a person, for example, let's say someone loses their job and they can't pay rent, and you're like, look, I can't deal with the fact that you haven't had a job in 6 months or something like that. The minute that person breaks up with you, that person takes that problem a lot of times from the breakup, and they go, wait a minute, I should be fixing this. The minute someone says, I have a reason to quit alcohol or stop doing drugs, and it could be to keep my family together. So really, when you break up with them, you might be putting them in a position to find a reason outside of having that next drink. It shouldn't be your goal, but it might be a bonus. Yeah, this previous relationship has made me really change my mindset about wanting to be exclusive. Right now, I just want to focus on my career and keep my options open. That's a great outlook, bro. Patricia, I have no problem that you prefer one person at a time, but David, I know where you're coming from. Yes, age has something to do with it. Relationships serve females more than males. Really? Is it a man's best friend to have a multiple sex partners? It is a woman's job to convince him that her intimacy is something special to be exclusive to. It definitely is the lure that catches the fish, isn't it? Because personally, I don't have time for games either, yes or no. This is a big theme for a lot of women once they get past, and I don't know how, I don't remember your specific age, their late 30s. Women tell me this consistently, that they really want to make sure a guy's not wasting their time or playing games with them. And sometimes I think it's detrimental to you finding a partner, because you're so upfront with that. It's almost like you're setting the rules for what you want, instead of maybe just having a good time and letting a relationship grow. Just my opinion. All right, we're coming up on an hour and a half with 18 on deck, 12 likes. Does anyone have a question? Don't ever enable someone who has alcohol issues that's not supportive at all. Can only bring light to the situation and support. Can't help someone unless they acknowledge and help themselves. That's the gospel. Scotty W knows. He knows it. It's true. I'm older, coach. However, live like a much younger person. Well, I respect that, Patricia. And I respect the fact that you like the show, and I always value your take and opinion. Even if from time to time I don't agree, I respect people that have an opinion with some kind of reason to it. Go for you. And I like your confidence, by the way. And I'll tell you what, I'm 39 and I live much younger than I think too. I was just talking to my mother yesterday for a long chat, and I was like, I'm 39. I feel better than ever. I mean, I feel young. I feel spry. I feel good. My mom goes, I'm in my 60s. I don't feel like I'm in my 60s. I go, Mom, you look good. And that's and really that's not bold or arrogant. That's a good place to be in. And by you saying that and talking that way, you're going to subconsciously make that true. Yeah, I know. That's why I and listen, no one. What a name. I feel shitty calling you no one. But uh the thing is, it's not easy, but most things worth anything in life aren't easy. And sometimes you make decisions that are painful and tough. And then down the road, 2, 3, 4 years, you're like, fuck, that was the right decision. Obstacle is the way, as the great Marcus Aurelius said. You know, the obstacle is, oh, this person won't stop drinking. How am I going to get over this? How am I going to get around it? I need to release them. Yeah, it's not really good for a coach and someone that's trying to be upbeat and positive. And I'm like, no one. 60 years old, that's a glorious age, Patricia. You got a lot of stories to tell, hon. Have 30-year-olds chasing. Well, go for you. Talking now is 37. You're 60 years old and you're going out with a 37-year-old man. Well, go for you. You sound special. Good for you. One thing that just came to my mind, getting back to the topic of this live stream, if you will, is that going back to this point where I said, and not all women that are older do this. Some women in their 30s and 20s do this, where they're like, I don't want to waste my time. I want to make sure you're serious. And they do this in the first couple dates. And they tell me about this. Well, I told them, like, I want a husband, or I want someone that is there for my kids, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, you should date a little bit before you put out declarations like that. And it's like, well, I don't want to waste my time. Notice how you use the word I, as in this is what I want. What you're doing when you do that, think about this for a moment, because I'm trying to work with you on this. It's not like, so if you're combative when I make a statement like that, you're already being unattractive to a man, because you're already not being reasonable and a good listener. Listen to me. If you're like this kind of person, then think about it this way. You're actually trying to extract trust in that individual up front, when trust can only be gained over time. And so when you sit there and you go, well, I don't want to waste my time. I just want to let you know I'm looking for a husband. And you've gone out on 2 dates and you're like, wow, I can't believe he didn't call me. I guess he's just looking for a one-night stand. No, he's not looking for a one-night stand, but he's not looking for someone that's going to dictate terms on fucking week 2. He's, any guy worth his salt would not sit there and go, oh yeah, yeah, I'm looking for marriage. It's like, no, he's looking to have a good time, connect, and see what happens. It's a discovery mission. Okay. And so when you sit there and you go, oh, well, I don't want to waste my time. Well, no one wants to waste their time. But in this present moment, can we have a good dinner, talk, possibly have some intimacy, possibly have a kiss, see what happens, see if we like each other, instead of discussing marriage and long-term relationships? I have to somehow declare to you what my intentions are and who I'm going to be. And then later on, when someone breaks up 6 months, 8 months down the road, they go, I've heard women tell me this too. They're like, he told me that he wanted to have kids and he wanted to have marriage. And then 6 or 8 months later, we broke up. And he said, you know what? I don't really want to have kids with you. I don't really want to have kids at this point. You know what the translation is actually? He probably was telling the truth that he doesn't want to have kids and he's open to marriage. But after 6 or 8 months, it was, I don't want to have kids or have a marriage with you. And then it's like, oh, he lied to me. He doesn't want to get married or have kids. No, he doesn't want to do it with you. Because like after 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, he realized, yeah, this is not. And then it becomes, oh, all men don't want to commit. They're not vulnerable to their feelings. No, he found out after 6 or 8 months or 9 months, probably because you were pressing a lot or he just was no longer attracted to you in that way, that, yeah, I'm not going to get married. It's hard to meet people that want to get married at this point in their life. If they've been burned before, they've been divorced. Age, definitely a number. Physical and mental state reflect true age. Absolutely, bro. They've had a study I've talked about in other live streams before where they took people, I think they were in their 80s. It could have been their 70s. And they put them, I don't want to say a clubhouse. They put them in an environment where they had magazines and movies and music from like the 50s or the 60s from their youth, from when they were in their 20s. And all the people reported being happier. Their nails grew longer. Their hair grew longer. They took measurements on different parts of their bodies. They took before and after pictures. So just being in the environment of who they were and what they did in their 20s actually reflected in the way they looked and felt. Think about that for a moment. This is why I always come back to the idea of, if you're having a tough time in your life, you're really unhappy, take a really fucking hard look at your environment. And your environment is your job, your circle of friends, and where you live, your neighborhood. I personally never want to get married again. Well, that's good for you. I don't want to be pressured or pressure anyone. Good for you. Sometimes you feel like she wants marriage more than she wants you. Be careful. Azam, you are on fire today. You should definitely consider doing a little bit of coaching on your own, bud, because you got a good approach, bro. Well, I wouldn't agree with you 100% on everything, but I'll tell you what, someone else might. I agree, coach. Let things happen by itself. I'm looking for a great connection first. It's really important, I think. I think that people get burned, and especially with dating apps now. If you're going to use a dating app, it's a discovery mission. It's odd. You can have some. I just had a friend, and she had a situation where she met this guy. They hooked up once, they kissed, and the next day he showed up at the house with a rose and declared his love. I mean, and she's like, I'm never using a dating app again. This is my second bad experience. It's hard because you're going on attraction. Thanks. I will hang that as a certificate. Hang it, bud. Connection focus, but danger with ex getting lost in the past. Can be tough with history to avoid past focus, but best to build new exciting relationships or bust. Absolutely. I think that people get lost in the idea that allow yourself to improvise within a relationship. I'll tell you the absolute truth of all relationships. The absolute truth. Are you ready? Write this down. There is no certainty. There is no to death do us part. There, just because any kind of relationship that's made official or whatnot, there still is no certainty. So embrace that, deal with it, and then when you have problems or issues, don't threaten someone to break up with them. Work it out, improvise, and then agree to disagree if it's not working. We got 16 on deck. Rob, you've been quiet today. Mary, you've been quiet. Jen, anyone else? Anyone have some closing questions? I got about 10 minutes left in this voice. I had a strong coffee this morning. I've been on. Life is uncertain, yeah, but especially relationships. And I believe that when someone becomes boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, partner, and partner, that they somehow think like that the other person is saying like, we'll be together forever. No. Please hit like, everyone. Thanks, Patricia. I appreciate it, Ed. Any closing questions? Certainly that's for fairy tales. Just because the forest doesn't exist doesn't mean we ain't still in the jungle. Good point, dude. What it means is there's ups and downs and there's the middle, but the idea that people don't change or circumstances don't change, and that someone wants to break up to you because they hate you or this or that. It's like every situation is different. Thanks, Patricia. I appreciate you too. How's Rancho Cucamonga? That's where you're at, right? That always reminds me of the Friday movie or the second Friday movie. What's your take on keeping options open while you're dating someone? Rolo talks about in his Rational Male. I think it's fine. I mean, especially in the landscape now with so many people online. I just talked to a woman a couple days ago, and she's in her late 20s. She's a catch. She was very casual. That she was talking to me about basically about someone that she likes, that she's been dating for a while, that she wants to take to the next level. But she's like, at the same time, I am dating someone else. I don't feel like she's obligated to tell if you're dating someone casually. To Fine, but if the person asks you up front, like, are you seeing someone else? You do want to be honest. You don't need to give them details, but if they want to have that chat and you feel like they deserve to know, then you should tell them. You shouldn't be deceiving about it. But I definitely think there's no problem if you're not official and you haven't committed to each other, that you're still a free agent. If so, how do you do it without disrespecting the relationship? My friend is in this predicament. Well, every situation is different, because there's some individuals that would like the idea that they're not official with you, so they have an open playing field. And there's some other individuals that, oh, he's official. Well, if he's official, it's his girlfriend and he's still dating another individual, then that's dishonest. So he wants to date while he's with a girlfriend. I mean, there are open relationships, and it will satisfy her hype. Jealousy is an arousal triggers in females. They won't admit it, but it is. And it will satisfy her hypergamy, which the constant doubt woman goes through of is the best I can do. Oh, he has orbiters. Interesting. Well, what does he want? Number one, does he see this woman as being someone that he's going to be with long term, or like he's serious about? Or I mean, he's got to decide to him if he's breaking his own personal rules. So orbiters, sometimes if you're a high level male or woman, or a catch, I would say, someone that's got a lot going for them, you're probably going to have orbiters, right? And you're probably going to have more women or men flirt with you. And so if you don't, you got to develop the lines that you won't cross, such as sleeping together. But if you're in contact with them, then you need to find those lines in an individual relationship. And you need to be honest with the way you want to be treated in the relationship. So, because if you just realize this is kind of interesting. This is food for thought. Let's say you have a partner, you have a girlfriend. She says, "Yeah, hon, I don't mind if you see someone else. I just don't want to find out about it." I've actually had a partner like that before. She's like, "I just don't want to know about it." Don't put it in my face. Now, if you have someone like that and they're allowing that, don't be surprised if they're holding themselves to the same rules. You see where I'm going? Can't have your cake and eat it too all the time. Now, if he thinks of this woman as like a really good girlfriend, someone that's long term, and she's really hurt by orbiters, quote unquote, crossing the line, well, then a case by case situation needs to be developed. So I just had a client. She's in her early 30s. She's been dating this guy for a year. They're boyfriend, girlfriend, they're official. She even takes, she even helps out with his kids, whatnot. And she's like, look, he hasn't made us official on Facebook, and it really pisses me off. I said, if you've been together, and she goes, he's really active on Facebook. I said, look, if you've been together a year, you're doing the things you're doing, you have a right to ask. You don't want to demand, but you have a right to ask and say, hey, look, it means something to me. It's important to me because I want other people to know that you're with me. Now, that's something that a situation that can make the orbiters know that you're not completely available. But like I said, if you're a high level catch and you're a young individual, then you're probably going to have them, and you're going to have to deal with them in a case by case situation. I don't know if you're going to have a set of rules that just applies to all of them, because, being a young guy or something like that and getting a lot of attention, or a young woman, a lot of times you like the orbitors, right? I certainly wouldn't throw them in your ex's face, and I would tread lightly. It doesn't have to be dating those females, just being friends. Women understand what being friends with opposite sex members means. No one will say no to a fan club. You're on fire today, Zom. Oh shit. I think it's a turn off. Man has no confidence if he acts like that. He won't act, he will be. Confidence is important and difference is great either, coach. This partner is a player. Yep, coach. Out of all the people I know, I don't know anyone in an open relation, at least they haven't disclosed that they are. They're out there. Open relationship is a woman who wants her cake and eat it too. There will be no games if both are honest and good intentions. A guy won't be in such a relationship. He will just have fun, have her cake. I have no interest in guys that are players or indecisive. Well, there you go. You got clear lines. All right, folks, we're at the minute 45 mark. It's been good. It's been grand. Like, keep them on the back burner. He saw a girl who was interested in him, but wanted to have an option open, it, and his current relationship failed. Well, that's his prerogative. I'm not the moral police. He can do that if he wants to do that. If the girl finds out and breaks up with him, that's the consequence, right? So, like I said, tread lightly if that's going to be your approach, and be true to your own morals and values, and ask yourself, if the girl did that to you, would you be happy? That being said, a lot of individuals operate in that way, David. She says she doesn't want to know about it, yet she secretly likely does. Good night, everyone. Good night to you too, Patricia. I appreciate you, hon. All right, I think we did pretty well today. We just came up short of the 2 hours, but I think it's enough. It's been good. It's been spirited. We had a lot on deck today. I appreciate you all. Azam, Aaron, you had a quick question. I'm sorry, I missed that one. What has been the longest time an ex has come back in your experience, coach? For me personally, or through my stories? The thing about it is, Aaron, it's like, what's your definition of coming back? Contacting you, or actually coming back into your arms and being together? Those are two different things. Me as an individual, I've never had an ex that I got back with, so it's never happened to me. Through stories, I've been doing this for 3 years, and a lot of times I don't hear back from people after I help them, so I don't know if their ex comes back or not. The times I haven't had a case, so it wouldn't be more than months. There's never been a case like a year later or 2 years later. Now, here's the thing. People coming back, like I said, people pop their head in the door and check on individuals all the time. People always tell me, oh, my ex just asked me where her shoes were, and we haven't talked in 8 months, and she wanted to know if her shoes were in my closet, or, you know what I mean? Those aren't necessarily coming back. So, I would say that's something that you don't want to put in your head a number, because then you'll be thinking in your head like, oh, I have a chance still in a year, 2 years. Because honestly, if you get past 6 months, 7 months, it's pretty much time for you to fucking move on. And get your balls on deck, and get your feelings back, and start going on bad dates, I call it, where you're putting yourself out there and stuff like that. And so, um, what you really want to do is get to a point where you don't care about the answer to that question. But uh, off the top of my head, I don't have an answer to like what's the longest has been. I really don't. Because to be honest, especially through my live coaching sessions, I usually coach people to put themselves first and foremost in moving forward. And I've seen people get back together, but there's never been one where I'm like, wow, it's been 2 years and you got back together or something like that, or a year. So nothing stands out. Generally speaking, within 6 months would be a good time frame. That's commonly something to revisit the relationship. As far as like someone reaching out of the blue that hasn't talked to you, I think that happens, but that doesn't mean they get back together. It usually means like, hey, what have you been up to? A lot of times people email me, oh, my ex from 4 years ago just reached out to me out of nowhere. But did they get back together? No. A lot of times people, when someone reaches out to them and they haven't talked to them in a long time, they get validated and they feel good. But usually their reaction is, yeah, I don't even have feelings for them anymore. I'm not sure if that answers your question, because I don't have one that stood out to me. But thanks, Aaron Rodriguez. I appreciate you, bud. Hearing from them, 90% will happen. There's a reason they're an ex, honestly. I agree with you, coach. Who needs an ex? Exes always reach out when the life is going well. After a breakup, family loss. I heard this, but if he checks your temperature, burn him. If he checks your temperature, burn him. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, a lot of times it's just a check-in. It's not like, let's get back together. It's like, hey, how have you been? Or like they use some weird excuse to contact you. But I mean, honestly, I've had ex before that I haven't talked to in a while, and I'll just be like, hey, how have you been? Or I heard something happened in their city, and I was just, wondering how they're doing. And it's just unattached. It's not like I want to get back to them, or they, crossed my mind. But that doesn't mean that you want to get back together. Good question. All right, I'm going to save my voice for tomorrow. I appreciate you all. Thanks for the likes. It's been a good one. Curtains.